Good evening and welcome to our Facebook Live. Well done everybody who's found me, because we are going out in a different place. We're going out on the Stamps Away page, not my own page. I have tried to share it across, so hopefully Jackie's found us, Carol's found us, Linda, Adam's found us, although he did have a sneak hint because he did check where I was going out from. So good evening, and if it's your first time watching, welcome to our Wednesday night Facebook Live. This is an hour dedicated to all things crafty. I pick a product or I pick something I want to share, and we just play for an hour, and try and cram in lots of demos, lots of tips and techniques, and it's just a really good place to get ideas. So if you've got questions, fire away with them. Happy to answer them if I see them. Laptop seems to be behaving. Phones are to this side, so if we'll keep doing this. This evening we're going to be playing with a little set of stamps that we did have on Hobby Maker yesterday, and I didn't really get to demo them, but they are the most adorable little bird set called Nesting. Now, I haven't added them to our website, so if you are interested in them, they're a little A7 set, so quite a small little set, but lots in it. It's £6 including postage. You just comment nest and I will find you later. So that's enough chit chat. Let's get to it. So I am reaching over here, pressing buttons. Here we go, onto the overhead. That's the set of stamps we're going to be playing with. So ever so cute. Oh, it's lovely to see everybody here. There's 4 stamps in there. So because I'm really lazy, I've got each of them already on an acrylic block so that it should save me time. And anybody who watches me regularly knows not only will it save me time, but it will also mean that I don't get my fingers quite so mucky, and we might end up with some clean cards. This is a little one I did earlier. I mean, it is just the cutest little stamp. Right, say little, it's an A7, so right. Quick whiz, that's my list. Will we get through it all? Hopefully. Right, let's get started with what I have affectionately called wonky tag. Right, put that away before I take that out of the packet. Okay, so I'm going to start with the main stamp, and I am going to just chuck a little bit of copy of paper underneath just to protect my cutting mat, because I do every so often actually wash them. And if anybody does have a self-healing cutting mat and you're wondering about care for it, cold water soak every so often helps them heal. So I gave them a good old clean and then soak them in cold water overnight, and it helps it all contract back. Right, so wonky tag. This is just an actual old school luggage tag. If you've got a tag die, fine, but I happen to have loads of these old ones, and there's just something about the string and everything. So I'm going to keep it nice and simple. We're just going to stamp our little bird. Now I have put the tag wonky on my paper just to help me, because you will naturally want to stamp fairly straight. So if you've got your piece of card or whatever you're stamping on and you want it wonky, put that wonky, and then you don't have to mess with your head too much. Okay, now it's not all going to fit on, that's the whole point. Okay, give it a good old press down. I mean, just how cute is that? Appreciate he's a little bit. Now, in terms of what you want to do to this, you could come in with a little bit of colour. I've got a little bit of colour in pencils here. So you could come in, just give a little hint of colour. I never do too much with something like this. Okay, you could use a white pen. I do that a lot. I think that was the sample I put up, is a white pen. Just a hint of colour. If you've got watercolour pencils, they're really good. Oh look, new pencils in a pack. Ooh, how exciting. Oh, look, and they're a bit wobbly. Okay, I'm just giving it a little hint. These can be whatever sort of birds you want. Later on, we're going to make them into blue tits. I'm going to add a little bit of colour to the eggs just to give them a little hint. My colouring is not great anyway, so just grab. So it's just got a little bit of colour on it, and I want to now decorate up the top as well. So we've got the flowers and we've got the beautiful foliage within. Oh, Jean, you found us. Okay, So I'm just adding some of this little foliage here, just around the edge. Might do a little bit at the bottom here to fill it out. I want to make it quite full and interesting. Let's do a little bit of second generation. Only trouble when you're using genuine tags is they have the whole reinforcer there, which can cause you a few little issues. Let's add the little flower, just giving it a little bit of interest there. If I wanted to, I could go in and colour the flowers and everything, but I don't want to do too much. I want the birds to sing. Pardon the pun. Right, now I want another piece of card. Okay. And I am going to take my birds. And this is the other reason we made the tag wonky and not the stamping wonky, because now when I come onto here I can just stamp it straight. Okay, and I'm not having to try and match angles or anything like that. Hi Renee, hi Maureen, hi Gail, hi Lisa, whoever missed, Jenny, Lucy R. It's nice to see Sue, Hazel, everybody's found us, excellent. Right, so I've just stamped that normally. Then what we do is we come in with the tag and we line it up with the stamping. So now we've got our little wonky tag. I want to just spruce that tag up a bit. I'm also a little bit, I'm not totally enamoured with that. I shouldn't have used black. So, Sue, Hazel, what don't we do? We don't throw things away. We go one step further. So I do like my little birds and I do like the tag. So what we're going to do is we're going to just loosely cut out the birds. Now I could salvage this a little bit by turning the tag over, but we'll actually use these bits of tag for something else in a minute. I just went too heavy with the black. I should have gone with something like Misty Morn or something. Okay, but all is not lost because we have another tag. So what we do is we just glue that to there. But before we do that, I do want to add some stamping to that, but I'm just going to leave that at the side there so you can see the difference by going with a different ink pad. So this time I'm going in with my Misty Morn or Morning Mist or whatever it's called. See how less harsh it is? So I want that coming down there. See how now it's not distracting from the birds. Just to compare, busy and distracting, nicer and softer. So for backgrounds, knock it back a little bit. But also it's not a bad thing to make a mistake, because now what we've got is we've got some bits we can use later. Add some flowers. Let's glue this into place and then we'll go back to the main thing. Because it's a tag, it's easy to line that up. I will ink that edge a little bit. Okay. Let's come in with a bit of peeled paint, just to give the tag a little bit more definition. And quite often you find when you make a mistake like that, that your second effort or your recovery comes out, no, that is the right one, even nicer, and you end up happier. So we're now going to line this back up. So there's our bird, there's our flower. Yep, I'm happy with that. So we're going to glue that on. Boop, boop, boop. Use a wet glue because that gives you wiggle time to get it lined up. Okay, and then just because I want to add a little more highlights, I'm going to come in with a hint of white just in a few little places, just to give it some light, some warmth. Now this is the Posca, the sort of brushy ones, so it will knock back a little bit more than it will here as it dries. So just some little bits, maybe a little bit on the nest there. Just imagine it's catching the sun, and there's your little wonky tag. But leaving this bit black and white, and then the colour and interest going on there. So that is wonky tag. Right, ticked off. Okay, moving on. Turn that over. Lids on inks before I put my arm in it. So let's go to a bit of book page. A bit of Roget's Thesaurus today. Okay, I want a bit of book page. I want 2 pieces of book page. And this can be done directly into a book, but... Sorry, I'm missing saying hello to people. I do apologise. Hello, hello. Peeled paint is your favourite green. It has always been my favourite green. I love peeled paint. Now, first of all, this is really annoying with Roget's Thesaurus, is this column idea. I know the book needs it, but I want to get rid of that. So what I'm doing is I'm tearing down on the edge there, and then I'm going to bring it in, overlap it slightly. It doesn't matter that it doesn't match. Also stops people reading the text if you don't want people to actually read the text. Just make sure that the lines roughly line up so it looks like it's one piece. Magic. There's another one there, so because I need 2 pieces for this. Yeah, I've always loved peeled paint. Peeled paint and forest moss are what I consider the most natural. I find pine needles more of a bluey green, so I tend not to use that as much. But forest moss for my darker one, or if you want a really subtle, obviously bundled sage as you do too. Right, 2 pieces of book page without a column in the middle. Fabulous. Okay, that one's going to get dealt with in a minute. I'm just going to add a bit of ink and a bit of stamp into this. So I want to have some foliage coming in, so I'm going to ink a little bit with peel paint. Now that line might show up a little bit because the the glue is still wet, but I just want to, it's less distracting than a big blank column. I could go rummaging for a book that doesn't have a column, but you know, I'm so short of books to upcycle. You know, there's hardly any of them about here. Just happened to pick the wrong one today. So I just want a little bit of foliage, so I'm making it overlap, so that's quite subtle. I'm going to now come in with a VersaFine Clair in green as well, just a bit more, not bringing it in quite as much, just want it to look like we're looking out into, you know, the undergrowth, the hedgerow. Okay, perfect. Well, not perfect, but perfect for my needs. Now we're going to go back to this one, and we're going to stamp in the black. Okay. And I'm going to aim towards the bottom there. Okay. And I'm stamping in the black because although the print is black in the book, the lines, the black ink pad is darker. So you see how it will stand forward. Again, you could come in with a little bit of colour here very quickly. Watercolour's nice, but I want this to be dry so that I can cut it out in a second. So we'll just do some quick swishing through there with some green. Now I do want the birds to really be quite prominent, so we can cheat with the birds. We can paper piece them. So what I've got here is some blue because my current favourite visitors in my garden are my little blue tits. So we're going to have this stamped. I'm not worried about this bit, I just want the birds. Okay, but what I love about the blue tits is that little flash of colour they add by their little yellow. Now, do you think I could find a yellow patterned paper? So I've dug out this autumn leafy type one. So just move that. So I'm going to get that bird there. And which one was that? That was that one. So it's this one with his little head turning. We'll bring him into there. So I just want a little hint of yellow. Now this is going to look cruel, and I do apologise, because we're going to roughly cut out our little birdie. Okay. And then I'm going to, I apologise in advance. This is going to look really cruel because I'm going, oh, this feels bad. I'm going to tear his little belly off, because what I'm going to do then is stick it onto there. So he's going to have a little hint of his little yellow belly. Okay, it just makes him pop. It's not the best yellow, but so I'm going to do the same to his mate. I think I've got 4 blue tits that come down. I've also got 2 cold tits and grey tits, and then we won't even count the doves and the starlings and everybody else that descends. But the robin makes me laugh, because if I'm a little bit late going out to top up the bird feeder, he sort of sits in the bush and the cherry tree and waits for me, which is quite hilarious. Right, so, and that's going to go onto that one. So it's just adding a little bit of colour, and then I've got to cut those out as well. World's biggest cutting out. So always go just outside the black line if you can, just so that you're not cutting the line away. Less important on this, because we are going to be sticking this back onto a stamped image, so it's okay. Off to his tail. I mean, they're just so cute. I know they're tiny, but that doesn't matter. And I could cut out the eggs as well to give them a little bit. I might just colour them in just for speed, but I do like this for making them pop. And this can be any old pattern paper that you've got. If it's a really busy pattern on a tiny thing like this, you might find it overpowers a little bit. So you can always emboss your image. Right, tiny spot of glue on his belly, tiny spot of glue on his. And then we're just going to line up so that you've got that little splash of the yellow that you get when a blue tit flies into the garden. And there for this one. Okay, obviously not RSPB identification quality on the images, but it's my stamp, so. Right, so we're now going to add a little bit of glue to there and a little bit of glue to there, and I need these in place for what I'm about to do, because I need it to be a little bit more robust. But look how cute they look with that little splash of colour there. Wow, it's lovely to see so many people, and people that I've not seen before. Hazel Press. Right, why? I wouldn't make them throw anything away, Vina. They're not allowed to throw things away in my class. Right. I do want to do the eggs now. Sorry. I will move on in a second. I will. Sorry. Quickly, I just think the eggs will pop. Not like pop like that. Okay. There we go. How cute is that? Right. Bit dramatic now. We're going to just make a little hole in there. We're just going to tear up there, tear across there. So we want to make a little hole, and I'm going to just tear very carefully till I get some birds. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut out around the birds. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just taking away the bulk, okay? And because you've done the little layers there, it does make it a little bit more robust, because book pages can be a little bit delicate when you're cutting them out. So what we've now got is that lovely little aperture. And you could just do it like that with an aperture. But what I thought would be really nice is have it over a little background that we've created. Again, I'm going to ink the edge just to make that highlight. Okay. And bear with me a second. Just trying to multitask badly. Nope, not working. Right, so a little bit there. Now, I would build this up with foam pads so it's got a little bit of a shadow around it, and also trim it down so that you've not got too much book page. But for doing that, I would actually do them together so you know they're going to line up. Let's take away that. Again, you could add more stamping around the top layer, but I just think it's a really cute way. And how cute are they when you add, okay, how many times am I going to say the word cute this evening? There's always a word that I find when I think about it that I've said too much. And tonight it is going to be cute. I'm going to take that very bottom bit off because I don't like it. And then I would mat it onto a colour, maybe a bit of black as well. But if you build that up so it's got that depth, it's just really adorable. So it would, new word, adorable. It's fabulous on a card, but also really not, that was my trimmer, really nice in a journal as well, or an altered book, because you can work with it directly in the pages. Just fixing my trimmer because I knocked me cutting rail out, and I might need to use that in a minute. Right, I'll have to manage without it for a minute. So, torn aperture and using colour to make your stamps pop. Okay, we're doing all right. We're cooking on gas. How are we doing on time? 24 minutes. Right. Okay, distress embossing. This was something I discovered the other day, and it's, let me just make some space. I will need that. Okay, just move that to one side. So, what do I mean by distress embossing? I'm going to go to craft card for this, and I'm going to do 2 examples of embossing, and then I'm going to talk to you about what I mean by distress embossing. So first one, we're going to go with our little birds stamped down. Yes, and I'm using VersaFine Clair, but it just shows up better. And I'm going to come in with black with gold embossing powder. Okay, nice. We like a bit of gold. But if anybody knows about gold on craft card or craft paper, hang on, I'm missing comments. What am I missing? Oh yeah, the 9 goldfinches. I've not seen a goldfinch for ages, Hazel. Right, so let's heat set the gold. And I do love gold because it obviously has that richness. But look what happens on craft card. It kind of disappears a little bit, and it looks a little bit, not false, that's not the right word, but it just gets lost a little bit, okay? But you might want that richness. So if you want the shine, you might go, hang on, what am I missing? I do apologise. I'm scrolling. Daphne's Diaries. Yes, they are. I have quite a few of those as well. Sue Hazel, do you remember those? Yeah, there's some really nice projects and things in those. Yes, they were, I think, a little bit before their time, really, in terms of how we'd use papers and things like that. Right, so this time I'm going in with black. Okay. And we kind of know how this is going to go. It's going to look black and shiny, but sometimes a little bit harsh. Okay. So let's just get that down. Okay. Just a little bit harsher. But what happens if I combine the two? So, what do I mean by combining the two? Because it's two embossing powders. What on earth is she talking about? Right. Okay. So, what I'm talking about is using both embossing powders. Now, you can't do it in the conventional way, i.e. tip it on and tip it back out. So, we use a sprinkle. So, I am going to go to my embossing pad here, only because I find that this craft paper sucks up the ink quite quickly and the VersaFine Clair can dry quite quickly. Whereas if I go for an embossing pad, I know it's going to stay wet long enough for me to do what I need to do. Okay, when I was just tipping it straight on, it didn't matter because I can tip quite quickly. But this time, I need to work a little bit differently. So let's get that stamped down. Okay, great for watching this is. Then a pinch of black and just sort of sprinkle it. You'll be able to see where the image is. Okay, just sprinkle. Just a tiny pinch. Imagine you're salting your chips. Okay. Then you do the same with your gold. Don't worry if you haven't got it everywhere, because we're going to go a little shake in a minute. Okay, so a little hint of each colour. Okay, then we do shaky, 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 shaky. See, it fills in the gaps. It's a flashback to those lovely magnetic pictures you used to do. Okay. See, I know we're going to waste some because we can't put it back in the pot, but because I did a pinch, look how little there is. And you could, you know, if you think that there's a bit that you might not have got any powder onto, just... So now we've got both powders there. And you can see already that that's going to give a very different look. Now, the only problem when you start mixing embossing powders like this is they all melt at slightly different times because of the pigments and things in them. So just give the black time to melt. And then what we've got is a combination of the two. So we've got all the detail there. Look, when we tip it, much more detail because it's picked up some of the black. And it gives it a nice aged look. It just works really. That's probably the best angle. In fact, let's go to camera two, and see how you've got that. Goodbye, tea bag. You've got that bit of black in there just to bolster the gold and make it more authentic. So that's what I call distress embossing. Okay, right. Let's flip. So how are we doing? Right, highlight eggs, done that. Okay, next thing. I have got this journal that I've been working on for a little while. And I want to add some of my birds into there. But if I was just to stamp my bird straight in there, two things. One, this is all different papers stuck together. This is paste paper stuck together. So it's got an edge to it there. So if I try to stamp, there's a danger that I'll get a halo. What I mean by a halo is, If you've got two papers glued down and you try to stamp across them, like so. This one is slightly thicker and slightly, because it's on top of the other one, the stamp is going to hit there first. And what you get is that white edge there, the halo, because it can't get into there. Also, you might find the distribution of ink slightly differently because you can't get as much pressure there. Even if you're using a stamping platform, that can still occur. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our own washi stickers. Right, Sarah, I've sort of glanced over and I just saw overran and read it as ran over. So apologies, a yoga overran, rightio. So what I've got here is some tissue. Really should read properly. Marv, do you want to get your nose out the bin, babes? For anybody that doesn't know, Marvin is a dog. Hi, mate. So I'm going to stamp onto my tissue paper. Now these stamps are quite delicate in the line, and what we're wanting is quite a bright background. So I am going to back it up with a little bit of embossing as well. So on with black embossing powder. And when we're doing embossing powder, we tip it off, we don't tap it off, because it's only being held on by ink. So if you start tapping all over the back, you might find that you lose more of your powder than you wanted to. Okay, so let's heat set this. Let's also put the lid on our embossing powder before we knock it flying. There is a top tip. Okay. So let's get, and I'm not going to add any colour to this, but obviously you could do, depending what you're putting this over. So just make sure that that's heat setting. Okay. So what you've now got is basically an image like that. Now, anybody who likes embroidery and possibly remembers the old embroidery transfers, if you took that to a piece of fabric, turned it over and ironed, it would transfer that image onto your fabric, and then you would be able to embroider over it. That's how those old embroidery patterns were done. They were basically embossing powder, usually blue. And it won't keep to the fabric, it will wash away. Right, so what we've now got is our little tissue image. So we're going to tear away the bulk of the tissue, because we don't need all of it. And you'll notice that it looks a little bit white. Okay, tear more carefully than me. But when we glue it, it will become more translucent. If you want to be really fancy, you could actually glue it with wax, and that would make it go really, really translucent. But I think we want our birds over on this lovely green. And also that shows up the translucent, the sort of, how white it looks before we, so glue. When you're doing something like this, choose a glue that dries clear, because trying to put the glue on the back of the tissue, you are going to break it. So put the glue down on your paper and then just press it firmly in. Now, if you're worried about pressing it firmly in because you're going to get sticky, grab a piece of acetate or your stamp packaging or something like that, that you can then, stamp packaging, acetate, that you can then press it down firmly without getting glue all over yourself. And then just work that in. And there's your image on top of there, nice and dominant, but you've not lost any of that detail. And you could build that up. You could go in and add some of the leaves and build it up and things like that. But let me just show you how different it looks if you stamp directly onto it. Let's take our foliage and stamp. It just isn't as bold. It's not too bad, but it's not ideal. And if I mess it up on the stamping there, I've messed up my whole page. So putting it onto tissue helps. And look how it does really sort of meld in. And you can also put a little bit of glue. If you find there's a bit where it's looking a bit too white, in fact, that the reason it's looking white is that's the piece of paper underneath. Just add a little bit of glue over the top as well, and it will sort of meld in more. So stamping onto tissue is a really nice way of being able to add your images to things. And also, you know, if you're messing about with the stamp set, stamp some onto tissue anyway, put them in a bag and you might use them later. But stamping onto tissue is a really handy thing. And it's nothing fancy on the tissue. It was almost certainly out of a shoebox. Don't rush out and buy fancy tissue. Okay. Let's do another. Right, so I have got 2 more things that I want to show you. How are we doing on time? Okay, I want to leave the big one till the end. Right, so I did do this a little bit yesterday on the telly, but I don't know how well it came across. So this is our die release sheet. Yes, I do use it for releasing dies, but anybody that knows me knows I don't do a huge amount of die cutting. Unless it's my big old Sizzix Big Shot and the big dies. Well, they release really easily. But if you're doing intricate dies, this is the stuff you use. But what I find is brilliant for it is it works as a little palette. So you can put your colour on there and you can pick it up from there to paint with and things like that. But what we're going to do, that's not the one I want, is it? That's not the one I want. Don't have your water and your colour. There we go. Right, so I'm going to this embossing powder. Hang on. So, yesterday I sprayed the paper and then took it to this. This time I'm spraying. I sprayed the die release. This time I'm spraying the card and then taking the colour away, because what I can do this time is add more colours in until I get the desired that I want. So I'm going to come in with a bit more green. Okay, my card is still wet. There we go. And because you're doing it like this, you can scrunch it up and get texture in there. In fact, let's scrunch it up and now press it into a bit of Mermaid Lagoon. And we're not going to waste any ink because it's shiny. Oh, I like that. Let's go round there. Oh, I do like. Oh, quite pleased with that one. Oh, do I want a bit of squeezed? Then you could even spritz that and lift some more off that. But let's come in with, I thought I saw a nice yellow a minute ago. Fossilized amber, there it is. Just to add a bit of warmth. Okay, I don't want all of this. So this would get cut up or torn up or something like that. But again, we could just give that a little dry. We could do something along that line and have an aperture over it. Would be really quite sweet. But I fancy, what do I fancy? What do I fancy? I know what I fancy. Bear with me a moment, I just need to dry that. I don't normally dry these with kitchen towel because it would take away some of the colour. Right. So going to do our little birdies. Okay. Right, okay. Yes, Kelly. Multitasking badly there. Right. This is longer than it needs to be, so let's trim some of this off because that background is too nice not to save some of it. Let me just sort this out because what happened here? When it dropped on the floor, that popped out. Hang on. There it goes. That's it. My poor craft tools. So I'm going to save that because that is just lovely. Take a bit off there as well. I mean, they're just really nice backgrounds. You know, so easy to do. Right, that's about the right size now. Okay. So I'm going to tear down. Still a bit damp, so it's nice and easy to tear. Now this time I have to turn my tear so that I get the white on the bit I'm cutting away. So let's now just take off the excess for a second. You've seen me do this before, but I do like using minimal amount of colour. You know, no effort on the colouring here. We've just let the organic inks. Do you think that's got a really marbled look to that? Okay, I need to just watch where my line is. When I say where my line is, where my tear line is. So there's a little bit of the branch there that I would actually need to take away so that it does look like it's falling off the page. Okay, round like that. And conversation at the weekend, we decided that I use big scissors because I am an ex-nursery, primary school teacher, and only teachers got the big sharp scissors because the kids would have the safety ones. So for all your display work and everything, they were the scissors you had to use. So I think that is why I naturally aim for big scissors and cutting out with big scissors, and days of cutting out titles on display boards. So there we go, just round his little beak and his little tummy. So now we've got our image coming out of the coloured, and then you would put it onto something like that, or again the book page might look quite nice. Actually, I think it gets a bit lost on there. I would go with the craft card, and you've got that image sitting out there, and it just draws the eye in a different way. Right, the last demo that I'm going to do, I'm not going to do the very full version because what I'm going to do is a star card. Now, to do a star card, you need 5 sections. And unless I did the entire Facebook Live just on doing the star card, which you would probably all lose the will to live. So I'm just going to do one section, but I will try my hardest to get it finished so you can see it in its full glory. But I'm going to just show you how easy a star card is. And I just thought with our little bird, it's going to be so nice because we can have these layers. So, and for cheating, if you've got pre-folded cards, it is so much easier to do a star card. So if you've got some greetings cards or something like that maybe you've lost the envelopes for, or when you bought them they didn't have envelopes, star card is the way to go. Now, obviously I was incredibly organised and I got myself some cards ready. I'll get some more because I don't know where I've put them. Welcome to my life. Right. Oh, that's postcards. Don't want postcards. Well, I could do it with postcards. Actually, it might be nice with postcards. Just want some cards. 1 second, because... No. If you were there's not even that much stuff on the desk tonight. Oh, I don't know what I've done with them. That's bonkers. Anyway, they'll turn up. On the floor. Knocked them on the floor. You know that clutter earlier? That was them. Right, I was going to use these because I really like using unusual papers. You might have gathered that. So I do save all sorts of random things like tags, postcards. And these are record cards, the index cards. So to do a full star card, you need to make 5 sections. And I'm going to do each section with 3 layers. Okay, so you would need 15 pieces of card. If you've got pre-scored cards, it's fabulous and easy. Okay. Now, depending how confident you are at cutting and whether you've got a trimmer or something like that, you can either trim and then fold, or if your paper or card that you're working with allows you to fold then cut, you can do it that way. But basically what you need to do is keep one full, one you take off a small slither, the next one you take off a bigger slither. Okay, and that is your layers. Okay, so on the smaller slither one, we're going to stamp our birds. And we're going to go across like that. Give it a little bit of extra attention where you folded it. Okay, and you would do this 5 times. We are going to, doesn't matter about this bottom bit, we need to keep that, but we're going to cut out the bulk of the birds. Okay, so it's just the birds sitting at the bottom. Okay. Again, you could come in, add your colour to this, really sit and colour them. I would definitely do the different colours. You know, the birds just in different colours would look fabulous on this. Okay. So that's one layer. So the next layer, we want to do something to it. So I'm going to come in with, oh, we've got the flowers here. That might be quite nice. So having lined paper helps. So sort of about there, we're going to have a line of flowers. Okay. I am using a block here that is a bit too big for this stamp, which means there is a danger that I am going to wobble and get sort of a bit of a mucky mark or whatever, but it doesn't overly matter for what we're doing. Again, add colour, ink this. This could be patterned paper. I'm just doing this very quickly to show you. But this is one that you can really spend your time on, and they do look fabulous when they're done. But I'm very conscious of the fact it's getting towards the end of the hour. And Marvin's fallen asleep in front of one of the cameras. He's on the floor so you can't see him. So see, we've got another layer. And then this one, we could cut this down as well if we wanted to, but we're just going to come in and add our foliage, which is this one. Same sort of thing. Adding it along the top here. So again, you could cut the top a bit fancy. You might, you know, but I might just add a very simple bit of inking to this just to give it a little bit of colour. So nice little bit of, so we've got our layers. Okay, so let's quickly, because we have got a bit of time, let's add a bit of, where's my water brush there? So Let's add a bit of green, and we'll do my usual amazing artistic bit of colouring. There we go, just a bit of colour. Doesn't have to be amazing. Just add a little bit of colour there. You can spend as long, get your pens out, colour this perfectly. Okay, add a bit of green to the leaves here, and then I'll find another colour. Don't work on top of that. Okay, here we go. Just adding a hint of colour. Then tiny bit of the green for the leaves here, and I am going to just sort of do a wash. I'll do that on the others as well, just to add a bit of depth to it. So just a hint. Might add a bit of blue to the top as well to again give us a bit of depth. So I've got Mermaid Lagoon there, so get some water flowing on that. Just very simply, just give it a really sort of soft look. Do we want blue tits? Yes, we do. Okay. Might give them a tiny bit of yellow onto their bellies. Obviously let that dry, otherwise you just get green. I might use a bit of Blueprint Sketch to make them a little bit darker. There we go. And I just want colour for the flowers. I am really rushing this. Don't you do this at home. You take your time with it. Okay. So, bit of purple. Just give it a little hint. I will do a full video on doing a star card, but I might have to do that at the weekend because obviously we're packing orders at the moment. Well, not this precise moment in time. I'm busy. Okay. Oh, that'll be nice. Let's pick out some flowers with that. Okay, just some little hints of colour. So go to town with this. Just let's add a bit of that to there as well. But you're getting the idea. But even that very sketchy, that edge down the side of a card. How cute does that look? And you saw how little effort I'm putting into the colouring there. Right. So how does a star card come together? This is a really nice repetitive one, and you do each section separately. Right, you start with your biggest one. Okay, you apply some glue. Now this one's a bit different because we've cut the heights down. Okay, so it's a little bit trickier. Now this is where you have to kind of train your brain not to think normally, because your natural instinct is to put it together like a book. But what you want to do is you want to take it up to the leading edge. Okay, your middle layer. Then apply a little bit of glue to that and bring in your smallest layer. Okay, and again lining up on that opening edge. Then you start to close. You take the glue, close it down, take the glue, close it down. And what you get is this lovely diorama feel to your image. Patience, let the glue dry. Okay, and you would do that to all 5 or 6 or 7 sections. I always say an odd number works better. Let me grab the other one. And then what you can do is it will open all the way round, and you would have your images going all the way round. But you imagine that cascading round with that beautiful spring-like image going all the way round. And the nice thing is that they do fold up flat. So it's a really, really nice card to make. Little bit time consuming, but you can get lost in the details. But how cute. I mean, just beside the fact that this is a star card section, how lovely does that image look on lined paper? Think about the paper that you use. It doesn't have to be smooth white all the time. Look around and use unusual papers because it gives you such a different look. Right, so quick recap. Star card. I've got all sorts. Mixing your embossing powders to give a more definition to your gold and not make it quite so in your face. We did, hang on, where's everything gone? We've done, oh, here it is. It's all a little pile in here. We did our really cute coloured birds. I really like the way they've come out. We've got our beautifully watercolory effect ones that come off the page. More embossing. We've done more than that. Is that all we've done? No, where's Wonky Tag? Wonky Tag's in here somewhere. I will find Wonky Tag and I get that. And again, I will take some photos of these, probably not tonight. I'll sort through and I will condense some down into little tutorials as well. And there was the one that I made previously. So it's a really, really cute little stamp set. Now I am going to switch back to the front camera, but my telly has done its weird thing, so ignore the telly. It's doing its weird thing. Don't know why. It was fine. It was fine for an hour and then it went to that screen. And I can't, the trouble is I have to be the other side of the counter to make the remote work, because I can't be too close to it or the remote doesn't work. Who knows? Right, so thank you very much for those new people that have joined us this evening. It's been lovely to see you. I will go through and read all the comments. Apologies if I've missed something. I just get so wrapped up in what I'm doing that I kind of forget that I'm supposed to be reading things as well. So hope you've enjoyed this evening, and I will be back next week with another live like this, and it will be coming from here. Could you mix the powders in a little pot? Yes, you can mix powders in a little pot and make your own embossing powders. Works really nice if you're doing ultra thick powders. We'll cover that one week, shall we? Yeah, I tend to have a pot on the go of odds and ends, but it's a good habit to get into, to not tip it out when you're mixing it, so you're not losing, especially if you've got black and gold, because one speck of gold in black, you saw the difference it makes. Right, so hope you've enjoyed this evening. I will condense some of these down into little reels if I can, because I was jumping about a bit, because I hope you're finding those useful as well. And from now on, the Facebook Lives will be coming from the Stamps Away page, just because I'm really trying to build Stamps Away up as a place to go for your education, for your inspiration. So please start sharing all your things in the group as well, so that we can see them. And in the meantime, have a good week. Enjoy this warmer weather. Marvel at the fact that daffodils are all coming out and spring seems to be on the horizon. And get crafty, get sharing, and I will see you same time, same place next week with something different. So in the meantime, take care and I'll see you soon.